In this video, we're going to discuss the significance of embedding images directly into the HTML, which is a new feature in version 12. So if you choose to embed the image directly in the HTML, then the base64 encoded data for the image is rendered when the grid is rendered. So if we go back to the browser here, you can see what appear to be two identical grids, excepting that in one version we've embedded the HTML and the image in the HTML, and in the other version we haven't done that. So in this first version over here, when I right click on the image and say inspect with Firebug, I can see that inside the image over here, if we look inside the source tag here, you can see all of this text here, which is actually the base64 encoded version of the image. And you can see that if I hover my mouse over all this text, it actually renders the image. So this version of the grid is showing is using the base64 encoded embedded image, whereas if I go to this version of the grid and I right click now and say inspect with Firebug, I can see here that the source of this image now is a file on the server. So the significance of this is best seen if we look at the network traffic when we refresh the grid. So let's go back to the grid here, clear this out now, and now go and sort the grid. So you can see that that the network traffic shows that there were basically quite a few different calls back to the server. Each call back to the server was to retrieve the image. So the initial grid was displayed, and then the images were fetched one at a time from the server. So the actual grid the images in the grid painted sequentially, and it's depending on the network speed, it can be quite noticeable. So now let's go to the grid that contains the base64 encoded images and do the exact same thing. So let's go back to the network tab here. Let's clear this out, and now go ahead and sort the page. So when we sort the page here, we can see that let's actually do this again, because these calls refer to some of these images over there. So let's clear this out now and do that again, and this time we only see a lot fewer calls. We don't see any calls for the actual images in the grid because they're all actually embedded. We do see a call for the missing image, but the number of callbacks to the server is significantly lower, and also you can see that the images pop as opposed to paint one at a time. So let's do that a few times so it becomes quite noticeable. You can see that as I'm sorting here, there's no individual rendering of the images. They're all rendering instantaneously, whereas if I go back to this image over here, you can see that the images paint still very quickly, but nevertheless noticeably and sequentially. Thank you very much for watching.